Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest October webinar series for South Asian Success. We are really excited to have with us Roopesh Nair from Intelo.ai. And Roopesh is going to be talking to us about his company, but also about his journey today of sort of building a company, building your career, right, from various facets and various working in different elements to actually landing up as a software CEO, which is just something that is super cool and exciting. So I am going to be interviewing you, and then we'll have some time for questions as well.
That's great. Thanks, Parul, for having me on this one. I'm
Yeah.
looking
Do
forward to
you
the
want to actually introduce yourself? Because I wrote some stuff from your profile on here, but do you want to just give us a quick walkthrough of your journey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I think I actually grew up in India. My different parts of India. I can't answer exactly where I'm from because my dad used to be uh, uh, working for the intelligence. So we lived almost all big cities, I would say, but primarily in Delhi. I would connect to Delhi and Chennai. Those are the two places I think. And hence I can speak a lot of Indian languages. Moved here, actually started working at Sapient pretty much right out of school, I would say. And then uh, was in New York, grew into kind of a director at Sapient, and then ended up kind of start working for a smaller competitor of Sapient called Equity, who ended up getting bought by Accenture. And as soon as Accenture bought Equity, my CEO at Sapient called me and said, "Hey, you said you wanted to go work for a small company. That's why you left. Are you ready to come back?" And literally within a few weeks, and I know I gave a shout out to some of the leaders who I worked with, and Alan, our CEO at that time, he's one of the folks I kind of learned a lot from around how to really kind of build a culture and how to really kind of care about people so that people start caring about you. Um, so anyways, came back to SapientNitro. SapientNitro, all that was in, tech, but primarily MarTech as I got into it. And then consulting using that. Basically, as I came back, I ran the e-commerce and content business unit. We called it as the customer engagement business unit at Sapient, where Nitro at that point. And that's basically where I started getting the basics of really kind of running a business, working with across, all the different facets of a business and getting those opportunities. So ended up kind of, as a global vice president there. And then as Sapient got bought by a French advertising company called Publicis and became Publicis.Sapient, I got an opportunity to basically bring a group of companies together in HR technology, and I got recruited by a PE firm who wanted someone with solid MarTech background and could be a CEO, and that's where I started kind of getting my first CEO experience. So I spent next 7 years being the CEO for working for a board primarily comprised of PE personalities, and then basically really kind of building a product out of a group of products, right? You can imagine like there were a bunch of companies who had different products, and I brought them together, and then we rebuilt a lot of the product, and then we acquired a bunch of other companies and grew it over 7 years, and that became Symphony Talent. And that kind of was a lot of the thinking which went into honestly kind of what led to me starting Intelo. So the summary of Intelo is I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, never had the had the guts to be one. Let's put it that way. Till literally out of school, if someone would have asked me, "What do you want to do?" I want to be an entrepreneur, but I chased I went to IIT, so I chased the American dream, came over here, and did all the stuff I need to do. And then it's like, what's the pain point I wanted to solve? And the biggest pain point, which I felt in most of my consulting journey with Sapient and Accenture, but later even more with Symphony Talent, when I brought a different group of companies together, was that information travels slowly inside organization and also from customers into an organization. And I had implemented these large platforms, in many of these companies, especially in Symphony Talent, uh, where I thought that would solve for the problem, but it's not actually not fault of the platform itself. It's how it was implemented, what got into the implementation of the solution and things like that, which led to the platform being something on the side and the problem still existing. The same problems about kind of information flow between inside the organization, about figuring out, what are the risks and what are the opportunities which are out there with customers, didn't necessarily flow as fast as it could have. And that led me to kind of start Intelo.ai, which is like, why can't I use AI, which was, 2.5 years ago. At that point, no chat GPT. People were not typing inside chat GPT to kind of ask questions and get answers. But having been in the industry, I kind of knew that what AI could do. And I was like, we should be able to kind of get these unstructured information inside organization and convert it into meaningful data for basically people to basically make decisions and move fast for managing their customers better. So that's basically how Intelo.ai got started. My itch to basically to build the company, and then also to build a company, and then having that pain point, which I felt like literally, as I was ending my journey with Symphony Talent, I was just calculating like how much more value I could have created if I had something which could have, or my leaders or my customer people had a tool which could have, basically told them exactly what is the risk in a customer, and they could have jumped in and solved for it, and exactly what the opportunities are. They can kind of maximize, upsell, cross sell. And I literally calculated it. It was about literally $100 million of value I lost. And I was like, no, this should be a lesson learned, approximately 100 million. And then that led me to kind of building Intelo. And of course, I continue to advise in the HR tech world, but my focus has been Intelo in the last 2.5 years. And yeah, happy to be here talking about the journey.
Yeah. Okay. So that explains a lot, because I think I was curious of, when you look at your like sort of LinkedIn profile, there was a lot of information on like advising and different companies. And I was kind of curious how that all comes together. So I think, thank you for explaining that. And I mean, what a unique opportunity, right? To get the chance to actually try out being a CEO in a way, right? At different,
Yeah, risk-free way, getting paid
yeah.
for trying out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not an experience everyone gets, but I think as we are thinking about the world we live in today, right? Being a founder is a bit of a scary like endeavor, right? What talk to us a little bit about you had this idea, you knew there was a solution to solve. How did you decide to take those steps to leave your job and your sort of paycheck, right? And go into the world of, hey, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna take on this sort of risk.
Yeah. No, so in all seriousness, honestly, being a CEO is completely different from being a founder entrepreneur. You can have the same title if you want. You can
Yeah.
put whatever title you want. But being a CEO is, of a company which is backed by PE. And, there, of course, there's a lot more different pressures out there, which you're working through. Of course, you have lots of customers you're trying to manage. You have lots of people you're trying to manage. You're trying to kind of ensure that you can be very human through the whole process, and ensuring that, as you grow the company, as you do roll-ups. It was a completely, honestly, when I look back at that 7 years, it was a very different experience. I got a lot of leadership experience. I got a lot of kind of strategy experience. But as I got into the founder role, I actually got in and I said, hey, I've done this for 7 years. Now it's easy. But it was literally like day till day 10, I had that feeling. And then probably suddenly switched to, where are my customers? Where are my people? Where is my money? And, and it literally changes overnight. So yeah, it took, luckily, thanks to the experience previous to Intelo, I had some kind of good kind of people who were backing what I was doing, and including my own funding. So basically, and for funding from folks. So that was not as much of an issue as I can imagine if someone, who is starting with like, hey, how do I build the initial team? So it was initially so I think what I focused on initially was let me build the product, let me build a team who builds the product. And
Mhm.
then, of course, I thought I knew the market problem. So I spent almost, I would say, 6 to 8 months really building the product with a few customers, which again was a big lessons learned post really when you start going to the market, right? You're like, oh, I thought the customer wanted it. I had this problem. Why are they not having this problem? So then you start having this conversation. So if I do the journey again, I would do it very differently. I would literally go in and I talked to people, don't get me wrong. I did talk to a lot of people, but literally kind of make the market before I build the product. That's basically the biggest lesson learned. Uh, Luckily I was able to hire an awesome team. Like I'm literally telling you, like the two architects I work with from a tech perspective, and the team around them, it's one of the you know, uh, most brilliant team I worked with all through my career, right from Sapient to kind of Accenture to everywhere else. So was lucky there. So I didn't need to worry about as much about like, hey, how is the product getting built? I did spend a lot of time kind of thinking about the product, but the building of the product, the team took care of it. So that was a good part of it. But then I didn't necessarily have I'm an engineer by background. Yeah, I did an MBA degree, but that doesn't make me a salesperson or a basically or a business person. Honestly, from heart, I'm an engineer. So I saw some of those mistakes which an engineer would make, right? When you start building a product, as you start thinking about market and yeah, all those rookie mistakes I made in the first year, I would say. But good part was we were able to mature a product, and then I think from there we got the reference base, and then we started building from there instead of top down. We kind of built bottom up, like let's get there. But then of course we had to pivot multiple times in the last, I would say, year and a half to get to where we are right now, where we feel really confident that we have a pain point, which and we built it in a way now. Initially we were trying to kind of completely change how customer success is done, and we were like a little, I would say, arrogant, as, hey, you don't know what customer success is. The head of customer success, you don't understand customer success. I'll tell you what customer success is. As compared to now kind of turning around and saying, yeah, you get customer success, but this pain of yours, I'll give you a pill for that, right? We were trying to do a surgery, and now I have a pill. That's the difference I've learned basically in the last 2 years. We have a pill now, which is actually selling faster. Even till 2 months ago, if it had talked to me, I would have been like, I'm trying to do the surgery. So that was the big pivot for us, kind of trying to find the pill, which can eventually get to kind of happy life, and kind of building through and working with them. So I think that was the biggest lesson learned. If I go back and talk about like, the founder journey, it was scary, but I think we are through the biggest part of that journey right now. But I've seen other founders post like after Series B, Series D, Series C, the journey is never done. But I think the now I can say I'm a CEO. I was probably just a founder in the beginning, right? Yeah.
That's a great distinction, though. And I mean, so thinking about all the founders that I talk to on a regular basis, I think that journey it probably resonates with many of them, right? You find a need, you go out, seek to solve that need, you build product first, and then you start to pilot and you really figure out where you need to pivot, right? It's not, the market sort of tells you, whether there's a good fit or not. You obviously are walking into a market that is newer, right? And as we think of
Yeah.
customer success, we haven't been around, before really the 2000s. So while the market is newer, there is a bit of saturation of brand and things like that.
100%.
How are you sort of working through those challenges? Like I think of the example of like the David and Goliath, right? Like that kind of feels like how it can be in this market, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean there's not space, right, for other products. So how are you kind of dealing with that? What are some of your goals to
Yeah,
overcome?
the biggest brand challenge for us is what is customer success means different things to different people, right? I go and say customer success. So I was talking to, at Symphony Talent, I competed with a company called Eightfold.ai, who are doing really well. Ashutosh Garg, who is basically the CEO of Eightfold. I was like doing kind of a discovery with him around, hey, is this the problem? And he's like, I don't care about customer success till there's a problem. Uh, and and he's like, you're building in the wrong space. And that was an interesting conversation. I was like, because when I said customer success, I meant all the way from, when this first sale is getting done, ensuring that, you're setting the customer for success and then
Yeah.
handing over smoothly. And in many CEOs' mind, and he's one of the best CEOs I have known, at least personally, who I have not worked for. And for him at that level, he's like, you know what? This is, I call customer success only when I have a problem. So that was one angle of it, right? And then there was another person who was like, yeah, customer success is not a department, it is everyone in the team, right? And then there are more complex companies where customer success is a structured department. There's a head of customer success who wants customer success done a certain way, and it's all multiple teams, blah blah blah, and more complex. So I think the biggest challenge for us has been like, who do we go to sell customer success, right? If you go to a VP of customer success and say that, hey, we're going to change customer success, he or she's like, what? You're taking my job? As compared to when we go to a CEO and say, hey, we have a super cool product which use AI to change customer success, and CEO is like, sometimes like, I don't care about customer success. Do you have something which I can use for selling? So that was the challenge. And sometimes it's like, what do you mean customer success? It's everyone's job. I should have a platform for that. It's Salesforce or HubSpot. That is my CRM. Everyone should be on that, right? As an example. So anyways, that was our biggest pain point, honestly, as a platform. And then of course there was an established players in Gainsight and Tatango and Client Success and others who were doing a pretty good job in kind of having their niche as a CRM for customers and with automation. And of course had a brand for customer success, right? So then that was our challenge, right? Do we call ourselves customer success? We went and rebranded ourselves multiple times to say, man, no, we are actually a value management platform which can do success. We kind of went through that multiple times in our positioning exercise and stuff like that. And honestly, what we realized is what the problem is not as much on the statement, it's more around what are we giving. If we are a small player, we need to have a solution which people can digest quickly. That is what I think this is the David versus Goliath problem you're talking about. Is I think I am not qualified to do brain surgery for you, is the intent. Unless you're my friend, yeah, there's a friend of mine, yeah, sure, do brain surgery, I'll trust you. But if you are a new person, I need to go in with you to, I'll solve your problem. This is the specific problem, I'll get it done for you. And that is where I think I have realized we can get in and create market share without worrying about, are we customer success, are we value management? Hey, we have an AI which can generate risks for you and dump it into Salesforce or HubSpot. No one else can do it. Here you go, right? Or here you go. This is an AI which will generate customer success qualified lead. Hey, no one works on outcomes. People are talking about outcomes and generating outcomes. And the demo I showed you, Parul, like when we were in we were showing it in our platform. Now we have that in Salesforce and HubSpot as an example, right? So now people can just add that to HubSpot and win. So those are the types of journeys we went through, which was painful, but fun, I'd say.
Well, I mean, that's awesome. And I mean, this talk is, I feel like so in my life currently, like who I'm talking to is so relevant. As a CSM, right? This might not feel as close to them. They're obviously dealing with the pain points, right?
Yeah.
How do you sort of see, I guess, the role of CS in that organization? Because what you described is, I think, unfortunately, the state of CS, right? We're very disjointed. Like, not everybody doesn't know who the owner is. What do you own? You own some parts, you own implementation,
Yeah.
maybe not, you know? Um, what do you see as somebody that is serving the market, right? As like something that we could maybe do to improve, right? That as a function that we might be missing. Any thoughts on that? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, no. So I don't think it's CS's fault, right? Or the department's fault, right? It's the
Yeah.
B2B SaaS evolution where sales always led the conversations. And now you're like, oh, I'm having retention issues. I was seeing a post from uh, Daphne, who's like the director of, I think, of customer success at HubSpot. And she was like, don't bring a CS team if you're having retention problems. But that is exactly what people do. They're like, I'm having retention problems. I'm going to bring a CS team now. They will solve, they're the magic pill to solve the CS problem or retention problem, as an example. So I think it's the issue of how the whole community, or the thinking was set up around CS. It's confused between service to kind of the cushy feeling for customer to being strategic. I think now, I don't know what's going to happen next year or year after. I can make a prediction, which I know is going to be going. If people are listening into it and commenting, I'm sure I'm going to get trolled on this one. But I'll make that prediction anyways. I think sales and CS, and a lot of people are already making that, but sales and CS and some of the other aspects on kind of the customer management / customer selling is all going to collapse in the next, I wouldn't say long years, I would say soon years. And if I would have told you 2 years ago that you'll be asking a random kind of engine where to go for vacation, you would have been like laughing, right? Uh, but I did that. Uh, and what's going to happen in sales and CS, and you can see the sales being disrupted where people are like, the digital sales rooms, all those things coming in, and I don't want to talk to a salesperson till I get to the end of the sales funnel, which happened in consumer, as a buyer, as a consumer, you did the same thing. You don't want to talk to a salesperson till you have researched everything, as an example. That is happening in B2B SaaS also now, right? Where businesses don't want to talk to people unless they want to see something and they want to kind of vet things out. They've already kind of come down the funnel. So a lot of the roles in sales are getting disrupted already, right? We are seeing SDRs are dead, BDRs are dead, all those stuff. And I sometimes don't understand some of those differences, honestly, when you think about that level of detail. But I know the differences, but I'm like looking at it and saying, hey, there are, what Salesforce and HubSpots are calling as agents who will do these things. So then what will the SDRs do? What will the BDRs do? And there will be a lot of things which CS today thinks they are responsible for sometimes, like, hey, reaching out to customer and saying, hey, let me talk to you, or getting on a meeting with them, listening to them and taking that summary and dumping it to a ticket. And again, I'm not talking about all CS people, but there is a good portion of customer success which does this today. I know that because a good portion of my team in the past has done this. And then because it's not their problem, because they are given so many customers and they're like, they have to go one meeting to another and getting to that. So a lot of those will go away, right? A lot of those are going away already. And then you're like, I need to be strategic, and I don't have time to be strategic. That's a very common thing my team always told me at my previous companies, right? I don't have time to be strategic. I'm jumping from one customer to another, and then you put a technical account manager and a CS person and this and that, and then you're like trying to kind of say, yeah, let me make time for you. I'll give you technical account manager so that you can focus on the strategic account management. I think all that's going to kind of die out soon. I think a customer at the end of the day, if you're the customer, I want one person who I can talk to and literally say, give me the answer, right? I sold to you. I bought the shoes from you. Tell me why the shoes is not working, right? Or whatever. I want to take it back to the store. So I feel my prediction is there'll be one person or one team, which will own this whole funnel, from sales to advocacy. And yes, I don't know what it will be called, and the rest will basically be and the people who can adapt to this and kind of figure out their pieces and say, hey, I'm a salesperson, but I love customers. I'm going to talk to customers. I'm a person who loves talking to customers and working with them, but I know numbers matter. My CEO and my board cares about that, right? I think those type of people are the ones who will win in that journey and become successful people. in this journey. I can, in my sense, I'm 100% confident that that's going to happen. It's just a timing, right? Of when that's going to happen. And that will create more opportunities, because then you can kind of sell more, create more value for your company. It's not like, so there'll still be that many number of people. It's just there'll be more value creation happening, and hence that value can be shared with more, more value can be shared. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying we'll not have jobs and things like that. I think we'll just rework what we are doing, and more value will be created. Just like 100 years ago, the value a company could create was not in multi-trillions or whatever, right? Now companies are there which are creating multi-trillions value, and hence can share. So I think the valuations are going to go up, because our value which you're creating are going to go up, because we are creating more value, because we are doing valuable things. Simple as that. And then people will get to get a share of that. And people who adapt in that CS sales and that area, I think will benefit, will have large jobs, because it's not an easy job to do. It needs a lot of thinking, right? AI cannot do yeah, sure, it can do the basics, but it cannot do the strategic thinking. It cannot be the human who's kind of I can't see it happening in the, I would never say never, but I can't see that
Yeah.
happening in the near future, where some of the aspects on, you and me being the human, and understanding that aspect, and then understanding their needs, which are sometimes unsaid, right? You're understanding through the lines, right? Oh, that is their needs, and getting through that, and then connect. That's where I think those people will be and then can connect it to how work is happening in an organization. And that's how I see CS getting disrupted. I'm pretty sure if someone is listening into it, and if there is transcript of it, I'm going to get trolled on this one. But I think that's going to be the reality, honestly.
Yeah, that's so interesting. But what you okay, so I'm not sure where I fall. I mean, this is really interesting. So I have to think on your thoughts, and maybe I'll comment on it but later. But the second half of what you said, which is really interesting, because machines are getting more sophisticated, right? We know this, and we know that AI is going to do more and more, but the human element is difficult to
Oh yeah,
replace. And
100%.
actually, I just went to the customer experience conference run by Michigan State University. It's called CXM 360. And I kid you not, the theme that everybody kept talking about was that humans buy based on emotion, right? We actually like brand value, love,
Exactly.
emotional, and they gave examples of like, the winners of the year, like Taylor Swift, right? Like able to monetize, you know, in just amazing ways.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And like the piece about human interaction is so key that I think that will stand out. That will stand out for now, right? How do you, I guess, thinking about the human element and the pain, right? How do you appeal to your customers? What are the pain points? I know you touched on a couple of them for us.
Yeah.
How do you like say, okay, we need to now turn it around. We've got this, we're not doing surgery. We're not going to tell
Yeah.
you how to do your job, but what we're going to tell you is like, we've got this niche that we can solve for you. How do you
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, the pain which we are seeing right now is actually in many ways unfortunate, because what is happening is, companies are getting kind of pressure from top down, right? Where it's like, you know what, I need EBITDA. You're not seeing the sales growth as much as I saw, right? And I can't, the board is telling them indirectly that, you need, your valuations are down, you need to kind of do different things, and stuff like that, right? So what the natural thing which is happening in many companies is basically, it's leading to attrition or basically not attrition, people being let go,
Mhm.
which is pretty unfortunate, because as I was mentioning it, the opportunity is not that. Opportunity is to kind of reframe and then build more value right on the top, rather than kind of building the bottom line, which is one of the reasons I loved my journey in the 7 years, but I also kind of had a little bit of like, no, it's not always about the EBITDA, but when you have a board, when you have everything, you sometimes have to work towards that, right? In that context. So, and it makes sense. But then what the pain point we are able to capitalize on that is you have to do more with less as customer success teams. And now the same CS person now has to work, 50 customers. And now in that context, the pain point then is like, who are the customers out of the 50 customers I should be worried about? Who are the customers I can play a little bit of defense on, which is like, yep, I can As long as there is engagement, I can monitor that and go through that and provide what the industry is calling as a digital CSM type setup. But then who are the customers I need to provide high touch kind of, and that is where the pain point we are able to solve, because we are able to quickly kind of say, install our ally, which is called Risk Ally, install it. You will know which customers are at risk, which customers are not, and we will generate the reasons for the risk, explain it to you. You can click through that and then go talk to them about it, right? That's a pain point which they have, literally. And you don't need anything else. We will just look at your data in HubSpot or Salesforce. And the biggest then the attack to the sales is, I don't have my data in HubSpot and Salesforce. And then we have kind of started moving to, okay, we will actually do integration for you. So actually we are spending more time getting data into the platform than actually implementing our own platform, because sometimes the customers don't have the data in the platform, which they'll have to have a right way to do anything anyways, right? So that's where, but you can still start with the base. If you just have your notes in HubSpot, that's good. Or notes in Salesforce, that's good. We'll start with that. If you're meeting information coming in, that's good start. Your emails are coming in, that's even more better. Now I can connect, I can get my tickets in the service desk or Zendesk or wherever, I can bring that in. That's great. That's additional information. I have a Pendo or Google Analytics. Now that information is also in. The risk quality is going to just get improved. That not because you don't have that doesn't mean that you cannot install us. You'll start seeing some value. And then based on the amount of integration, amount of data, our pricing changes because our quality of risks basically improves. So we kind of made tweak there. So that's the pain point. One of the pain points is an example, right? Which we are seeing. The other is, again, I'm now given revenue responsibilities. And I need to generate leads for my sales team, or I need to close sales myself, one of those, depending on where the cards got distributed. And then there also, again, we are able to kind of really create the CSQLs and then help either the sales team or the CS team themselves, because that's the need of the hour. They need to sell more, period, right? So those are the pain points which is resonating most, which is simple enough. And then there's a larger one, which is more on outcomes, as I was talking about, which honestly is a little bit more fuzzy right now, because when someone says outcomes, they mean something else in some other company and something else in some other company. So we're trying to still, honestly, when we say outcomes, we meant, hey, these are the use cases and KPIs and business case you're working towards. But then that term outcome is a little fuzzy. So that's not been as simple as the other ones. But yeah, we are still figuring through that also.
Yeah, that one is like the enigma. I think that one is the most important. We all know it, but it is the hardest to track and figure out. And somehow, I think we've been talking about this for 3 to 5 years at least in CS.
Yeah.
Everything is outcomes driven, and yet it seems the hardest to still quantify.
Yeah, and sales should be actually thinking about it too, because that's
Yeah.
the first thing, because that makes sales so much more easier, right? Hey, Roopesh, I will get you from New York to Montreal in half an hour. Oh, great. That's the outcome, right? I'll buy you, right? So I'm just making something up, right? But basically that outcome, instead, a lot of these sales is actually still, touchy-feely, which is great. But then after that, at least some form of outcomes will then help kind of hand it over to the implementation or customer success or whatever teams you have, so that is one thread which I believe connects everyone in the organization. And it's difficult to quantify, and that's probably why we are having a challenge on kind of that specific. So we call our product right now as a group of allies. So we don't think about it as you install this and you get this. Instead, we are thinking about it as, you can install Risk Ally, just get Risk. You can install CSQL. You can install Outcomes. You can install Engagement. So these are the top 4 allies we have. And then we have Customer Health, kind of connecting these things together, because as soon as you add Risk, you can get Customer Health based on Risk. As soon as you add Opportunity, you can get more information about customer health based on opportunities available, Engagement, and so on and so forth. That's how we're thinking about, because we initially started talking about customer health as the core, and then we realized everyone is building customer health. HubSpot has customer health, Salesforce has customer health, everyone has customer health. So instead of kind of trying to change that, we were like, hey, if you add risk, we will bring that component into the customer health assessment. So coming back to outcomes, but that's the connection point. What we have seen is not everyone is saying the same language, and because it's a reality is outcomes are, if we as humans cannot define outcomes very easily sometimes, right? Like I was thinking
Mhm.
about it myself. I'm like, what do I want? Right? And then you're like, it's not that easy to define outcomes as humans. So that's probably why that's a challenge. But at the end of the day, yeah, once you agree that, hey, it's a list of things I need, and how do I measure those things? That's outcomes. And as simple as that, we call it as use cases and KPIs, call it whatever. But you know what? These are the ways you measure outcomes. And then there is a business case based on the outcomes that, hey, these are the outcomes, so this is the impact on the business. So it's not that that difficult, but
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to call this out as an area that I think that we as CS can improve is I think we also strive for like perfection. Like you said, defining an outcome is difficult, but understanding the goal is not difficult. You can easily understand the goal by asking your
Yeah,
customer.
exactly.
What's your goal? Okay, how do you quantify it? Maybe they have a way and maybe it's a little bit different from someone else, but just document
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Start with
Exactly.
that. And then at the end of the day, there's going to be some trends that's going to come from it, right? But I think by saying it's hard, we often shy away from it. Maybe
Yep.
that's where we can improve SCS is like, hey, let's just start to embrace what we know and what we have. It can feed our sales cycles. It can feed our marketing teams. It can feed everyone better information if we even just document what we're seeing, right?
Yeah. So just I'll give a plug here just so that we one of and honestly it will help hopefully. One of the reasons we exactly thought that way is Parul, and the reason we kind of created a free version of our outcome ally, which actually will just give your company name and it'll generate the outcomes and KPIs, which basically might be the best fit for your customers. Uh,
Wow.
so basically that way you're not like trying to make it, of course, it may not be perfect, but it's a good starting point. I think people need that starting point. Sometimes it's like, what are the use cases and KPIs I can deliver for my customers? And then how are you think about outcomes, right? But we think about it now. So there, our ally is available in HubSpot. People can install as part of their sales process. As they talk to the customers, now they can literally say, oh, these are the outcomes which are getting recommended. They can use it or not, but at least start having those conversations and help having those. That is the intent there, and hopefully we can change that trend in the industry. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Good. That's a great, I mean, so yeah, that's good to know. Thank you for that. Okay, so I'm gonna take last sort of thoughts from you, and then I have one last question for you, but let's you already painted a picture of what you think is the future, right? What the future looks like for our function. Share with us like what are your sort of hopes and dreams for what we see in CS, right? Because like I think that we see the future, it's gonna be this way. There's maybe a lot of resistance to that future. So how do we
Yeah.
make it happen? How do you hope that we as a function can start to see that occur?
Yeah, I think it will just be inevitable as the things move in many ways, right? As the levers get pulled in the world, the time is the factor, like how quickly does it get pulled. But I think to your question on where do I see a perfect world? Again, how it gets done, a perfect world in my mind is that I don't, as a CEO, as a CS leader, as a sales leader, CRO, I don't lose a customer because I didn't know about it or the customer didn't know I could do something.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect world, right? Basically, if or the same way, I couldn't maximize and create value for the customer because I didn't know I could create this value for the customer, or the customer didn't know that I could create this value, right? That is basically, in the perfect world, the information will be so transparent that basically, of course, there are humans managing those, exchanges, right?
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, that data or that information is so transparent, like I can now go and ask uh, ChatGPT or Claude or whoever and say, tell me this. And in a good sense, they can transparently tell about most general topics, right? And if the same way, if not even ask, but be able to kind of be that, create that transparency in the customer management world, then I think that's the perfect world, because unavailability of information should not be the reason why I cannot maximize the value or manage, or the customer just leaves. It's sad to see a customer who basically leaves because they didn't get what they needed from us when they could have got what they needed from us, right? Or it's sad to, same way, the other way around, to have the customer not creating the value they create. So that is basically where, if they have an issue with, their business is going down, or they had a merge or something like that, of course there is opportunities like that which is outside your control. And that's why I'm not saying that, hey, retention is 100%, right? It would never be. Just from a basically from that perspective. I mean, from a customer count perspective, the retention is never going to be 100%, because there will be cases where the customer just is like, oh, buddy, I just got acquired. And hey, the opportunity is like, hey, I got acquired. Can I go figure out how can I help you in a bigger picture? Because I got to know that you're getting acquired. And by the way, my data points are very strong that the value I'm creating for you is so high that I can transfer it over to your parent organization or whatever. But hey, my parent organization already have you guys or have someone else and they're doing well. So I can't, those type of things you cannot. But in a perfect world, other than those type of scenarios, you should not, because it's pain for everyone, right? When you change, and sometimes you change because you're not getting the right things, but you can, and now your product is broken. God help you, right? The customer will have some patience, but not to the point that basically it'll not be forever. You can create some space for yourself, at least knowing that yes, product is broken, and you can create the space for yourself and work with the customer, right? So that's the perfect world. So I don't know how, honestly, how the change management is going to happen. I feel it'll be forced on us by the nature of economics,
Yeah.
over a period of time. And as that happens, hopefully the ideal state is that, and that's where we believe to thrive. We hope to thrive, where we can be that engine which provides that transparency to everyone involved, including the customers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know, and I think it's a great mission. And I think that in CS, we have a ways to go to get to that level of transparency. But I also think, you happen to be a CEO founder in customer success. But going back to kind of what you said about having more people invested in customer success, even at
Yeah.
the early stage, right, can help to bring awareness to that. What are the metrics we need most transparent, right? What do I need
Yeah.
to, what
Exactly.
do I not need to know, right? Frankly, there's a
Yeah.
couple of stuff
Yeah.
you put on the
There's
wayside.
a lot of noise. That's why the issue is, like, to your point, what do I don't need to know? Because in my staff meeting, sometimes they'll be like, oh, this customer is screaming about this.
Yeah, yeah.
That may not be something I need to know, but because that's the loudest customer who's screaming, or the loudest person in the staff meeting who's screaming, I'm, as a CEO, turning around and saying, okay, let's talk about that, right? But honestly, again, to your point, how does that success, more than customer success metrics, right? Kind of, I love the fact that you call it as South Asian success, and not necessarily, at the end of the day, it's success for the company and the customer at the end of the day, right? Connected in many ways. Whatever we call that as, but how can that success metrics be clear between customer and the company? And then everyone has to care about it, because eventually you do care about it. You do come back and say, hey, how many customers are we gaining? How many customers are we churning? Hey, that is completely dependent on how many successes are you creating, right? So in that setup, right?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. And I'm much more invested in the verb of customer success than the noun. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
in a weird way we
Mhm.
did ourselves a disservice calling a team customer success, because it really confuses the organization. And where we focus on the broad word of success, we're all invested in the same goal.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that vein, let's ask you a more personal question about yourself. So we're South Asian Success. Are you team chai? Are you team coffee? Are you team no caffeine? What's your caffeine of choice?
If it takes a lot of time to make a good chai, so if someone gives me a good chai, I'm team chai. But being in the current setup, it's so much more easier to press a button and get a get an espresso. So I think I've converted to team coffee just with convenience, I guess, over the years. But team chai is
Also,
yeah.
this is also a pain point in the world, is someone to make the perfect chai experience in a fast way has
Yeah,
been
because chai is so like every chai is so different. So I go make chai one morning, I'm like, oh, this is good. And then I go make chai another day, it's like not that great, right? So unless it's your mom or someone who's really an expert who makes a chai, it's like it's perfect all the time, right? So yeah, I was team chai, but yeah, my migration to America has me to team coffee, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, okay, I'd love to open it up and see if anyone has any questions. Any questions?
I have one. I don't know much about CS things.
Go ahead,
So
Deepak. Yeah.
one, are you using any LLMs? Like most of the companies are AI companies are using LLMs.
Yeah. We end up using many of the AI models, including basically the OpenAI LLM. We use the cloud. We actually are LLM agnostic. So the way I built it is like depending on the problem we are trying to solve, you might be able to use an OpenAI API, which ChatGPT runs on, or you might be able to use the cloud, or you might be able to use a Gemini API. And that's basically because what we've seen is we keep continuously testing and saying what is generating the best results. Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. We started using LLMs before people knew about ChatGPT. That's the basic of LLM is what basically converts in many ways that unstructured email or meeting and everything else into a structured information. So that's the basic technology idea, which made me feel like, yep, we can solve for it because I have all these unstructured data. If I can convert it into structure, then I can use analytics and applied science or whatever to kind of really figure out what the information is. The challenge 3 years before or 4 years before was there was no way I could look at those emails, look at those meetings, look at those tickets, look at those things. But LLMs kind of changed the game there. Now you can kind of, it initially was like I can tag these, emails and say the LLMs were not as mature to kind of create that perfect summary. So initially, when I was doing this in my previous company with HR, for example, we used to tag resumes to say, hey, this resume is probably a gold resume or a silver resume or whatever. And LLM's maturity 8-10 years ago was at that level, right? Now LLMs mature to the point that the summaries can be perfect. And that is the big aha moment, which kind of started. And we also saw that this is going to move so fast, right? Because it looks perfect, it looks super perfect, it is amazing, right? To the point that it does a better job than me copywriting right now, right? As an example. So, and I think it's going to continue to improve. So absolutely, LLM is the base for not everything is LLM, but the part where I was talking about converting unstructured information to kind of structure so that I can extract, that is all using LLM. And then the part where we generate things, right? For example, we generate an engagement or we generate a risk. We know the information, and then we say we have to communicate in a human form to someone, right? So that is also using LLM to kind of create like the outcome, which is mostly using something like a ChatGPT for create. Once we know the problem, then we are just converting into human form, right? That's it. That's also a task which happens in our setup. Yeah.
These requires fine tuning also. So you
Yeah,
do
100%.
use fine tuning or do you outsource?
No, we need, yeah, that's why I was telling you, like the leaders we have in engineering, they're so passionate about this topic that they wouldn't let we talk about perfection. That is where I sometimes kind of I'm like in two sides. They are perfectionists. They want everything, even if they see a drop and they see that that is not perfect, they continue to fine tune with the team. So they allow that perfection, and without fine tuning, you won't have that perfection. Like for example, but again, in scale, some places you don't get perfection. We have a score which comes out, and we see that hey, these places it was not as perfect as it can be. The team reviews it. They see if I can change the prompt, I can change the way the data is cut, I can change the model itself, and continues to play around with it. I can tune the parameters. There are lots of things which goes into, although it sounds simple on the surface that I can just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's now human enough where I can convert into a human prompt. It does look simple, but when we look at kind of solving specific business problems, even kind of when you say something in a specific way, you might get a different result. And that tuning, even that is a lot of engineering, prompt engineering and engineering effort. Like when I say prompt engineering, kind of tweaking the prompt, engineering is like really the data which goes in and what is, fed to the prompt so that you can kind of create the right outcome. Yeah.
Thank you. It sounds
Yeah, thanks
interesting.
for the question. That was amazing, Deepak.
Sorry, I muted myself. I was just saying, I'm imagining all the complexity of the prompts now, right? Like that, depending on industry, depending on customers, all sorts of things.
Yeah,
So
it depends on the dimensions of data, right? Like, for example, in some data, you have tickets and you don't have the email, all that stuff. So yeah, again, if you do it on the surface, it's easy, but yeah, there's a lot. And then there's an aspect on kind of, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's why sometimes we couldn't get good quality because, just to your point, the noise, right? The noise the human feels,
yeah.
AI also feels that noise, right? So you need to tell the AI how to clear the noise because it's garbage. And if you send all the tickets and say, hey, summarize what is going on here, it'll not know what to do, as compared to then as a human, what would you do? As a good CSM, what would you do? Then, exactly that's what you need to train the AI on. Like, think like the best CSM you have. And the good news is, like, that's where our experience and stuff like that comes into that area. Like, not just CSM, as a leader, how do you think about problem solving, right? When you start thinking, oh, this customer is at risk, how would you solve that problem? Like, how do you really get into the root cause of why? And the same thinking needs to be then given to AI. AI can basically do the basic of like summarizing it. I don't want to look at this email, just look at that email and tell me what it talks about. Yes, AI does a good job with that, right? But then how do I connect the dots and things like that? That's where training the AI and fine-tuning the piece of it makes.
Yeah. This is like such an interesting space. I feel like we can have a follow-on webinar all about AI, training AI models in CS.
Yeah, I'm sure a
So
lot of
fascinating.
my geek other founders in this space would love to geek out on this one
Oh
because
yeah, I
it's a very
agree.
interesting topic.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. But for the sake of time, I won't dive into that. But thank you so much, Rupesh. And it's really interesting just to hear your journey. And I think I love that you share really openly, because I think a lot of us in the South Asian sort of cultural spectrum, we're risk averse, right? Like that's how many people have grown up. So taking that step to build something is truly amazing. So love to see that and love to hear
Yeah, that's definitely the South Asian aspect in me, which stopped me from jumping in and kind of building a company when I was 20 out, out of rookie. And then I had to wait 20 years to kind of go do that. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. No, but I'm seeing a difference, Parul. I'm seeing kids getting out of school, college right now in South Asia. India is the closest I am to, and I hope there are a lot more entrepreneurs coming from that community because and I see that it's not hope. I can see that already, right? A lot of the folks getting out of my alma mater, from Rookie, for example, there are some amazing founders who have created some amazing companies right now, which I'm really proud of. So yeah, this is happening. It's just again the same thing, right? It's just moving, and I can see the Deepaks of the world kind of working on the next big thing they're thinking about, as an example. So yeah, I see the young talent, and I'm excited about South Asia in general. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great perspective because I think generations are moving much faster and changing the world. And I even went to India. I talked to my cousin. My cousin's son. He's 12, and he's like, "I'm gonna be an entrepreneur." That's what he said.
Yeah.
Weird, and I'm
That
like,
was not even a
"Oh,
side topic for us, right?
yeah,
Yeah, because it was like, oh, what do you want to be? I want to be an engineer or a
yeah,
doctor.
doctor."
What? Okay. If you don't be an engineer or a doctor, your life is done.
Think that your journey has been inspiring. I think it also is good for the CS people that are listening is like your career didn't necessarily come from a straight path that was a customer success path. And many of us are feeling those challenges in the job market too, so that you can really build from your experience, right? And that was the kind of the topic of that I chose for you today, is like building from the things that you learned from along the way, whether it's in high school, whether it's in college, whether it's beyond, you can really take from
Oh,
that.
100%, 100%. I have yeah, I don't know if this webinar is becoming too long, or I have a
Oh no.
thought for that, like which I talk to my teams and my leaders talk to me about. It's about building those skills. Think about all the skills you're building and how to use all those skills, because every place you work, you work at a McDonald's, you gain the skill of, talking to a person and kind of understanding that person, as an example, right? You work as a CEO for a PE company, you understand, some of the nitty-gritties of financials, how to move things, how to kind of think about growth, things like that. So there are different things you learn, and then you put all those together, and these skill sets, no one's going to be able to take away from you, right? The skill is what someone cannot take away from you. Titles people can, right? Titles AI can, or PEs can, or investors can, or CEOs can, or your boss can. Titles can be taken away, but skill sets cannot be taken away. So if you focus on the skill set, I always talked about it as a bucket of skill sets you need to have, and then look at your bucket of skill sets and see what else you need to add, and then keep building that bucket, because that will grow you really fast. And don't, even the junior folks who are starting their career, I would say, don't even worry about titles. Yes, if you need financially, wherever you need to be there, but try to build skill sets, because you will grow from associate or whatever to a VP overnight if you have all the skill sets you have. It's a skill set setup, and you'll be a confident VP because you'll know everything, and not someone who is, not grown through that path. So anyways, yeah, we can have another webinar
That's a
on
great, I know. We're taking so many good tangents. No, thank you so much, Roopesh. I think like what you said is so important. And thanks for sharing the journey. We're really happy to share this with the broader world. As you know, this will be posted to our YouTube channel, so we'll be promoting it from there. And I just want to share one last little bit for everyone that is watching. So this webinar is put on by South Asian Success, which is a community designed to create a collaborative space for customer experience, customer success professionals who identify as South Asian, so we can celebrate not only culture, but we can learn and grow together and drive diversity and thought and practice. So that's kind of our goal. Check out all of our links. We've got our blog, our webinar, and all other good events that are coming up. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take
Yep.
care, everyone.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.